Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is.
The Return of Dr. X.
Oh my god, you're alive.
I am.
People were asking, they were like, did you kill your co host?
If you could call this living. Uh,
Stop it.
no, I'm alive.
Yeah, they were.
People really thought you killed me?
Well, I mean, it is me, so, it makes sense. Hold on one second. I'm trying to adjust. This sucks. My cat is trying to get all over my computer. Anyway.
You have to get within a state of me at least.
Right. I know. No, people were, people were concerned, they just wanted to make sure you were okay. I've had a lot of people reach out and they're like, what happened? And I'm like, oh no, it's fine. He's still good. He'll be back. So, so you're back. How's life been?
I'm like herpes like that. I always fucking return. Good. I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. I just had a lot of stuff going on.
Sure.
With work, which obviously I won't get into because nobody gives a shit. So yeah, it was just, sometimes shit reaches a point of critical mass, or at least in my life. This is something that happens to me, honestly, like every 18 months where like, there's just, I start, I get a nice ball of momentum going. And I start taking on a lot of projects and doing a lot of different things and getting involved in things. And, inevitably someone like me always succeeds at what they attempt to do, which snowballs and creates more opportunity and more things to get involved in. And then I reach a point of, like I said, critical mass where I just need to kind of hit the pause button and be like, okay, I can't fucking do all of this.
Right.
Let me sort through what I got going on here, decide what I want to keep and what I want to throw out. I do like spring cleaning with like my life and creative projects and everything that's going on. And obviously this was going to make the cut, but it was just nice for 2 weeks to have like, one less thing to have to juggle during the week.
Sure.
And I appreciate you could not have been more understanding and sympathetic and cool about this. So I want to thank you for that because I've definitely worked with people in the past that are fucking pricks about it.
Well,
and you weren't.
I don't want to give you a reason to like push me away and be like, oh, well, she's a bitch. This is not what I want to do. I like having you. People like listening to you. I think that, we're definitely a duo and I would hate to think that I would have to start over. So, that's
right. No. I appreciate. Yeah, I'm in this for the long haul. I love doing this. And out of all the things that I had to kind of like, put on, kind of temporarily step back from, this was the one thing that I missed the most. Although you did pretty good without me. I mean, the V show was really good. I listened to that this weekend when I was out driving around.
Well, so let's talk about that show real quick because you weren't.
Yeah, I want to have her back ASAP because that was really interesting. I was like that. I was like yelling at my radio because you weren't saying the things that I wanted you to be saying. Like, how do you not talk about Reiki? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, I know peripherally what it is because, I mean, I'm into this shit, but like, that's kind of a recent thing in the terms in the new age world, is the Reiki healing stuff. And I would love to talk to, like I said, I'm barely aware of what it is. And I would have had a million and one. I would have spent the rest of the show asking about that,
Well, she's more than happy to come back on. She loved being on the show.
Awesome.
She likes what we do. Her show, she's got a great podcast. Hers is just a bit more serious. And I think that a lot of people, the big appeal to coming on this show is that, where it's just so inviting and it's so welcoming to just kind of kick back and just kind of, enjoy the conversation. So she's more than happy to come back. But, we had a big event happen, on the episode last week. So last week, if you listen into the show, while V and I are talking, I'd asked her what, one of her scariest experiences was, and she was talking about this, specific demon that, comes through the Ouija board. I can't say its name because people will be upset, so I won't. But it's a very popular legend. Anyway, so while that's happening, she's talking to me and my curtains are moving in my bedroom. So I'm filming it. And I've put the video out there and I let people see it. So I cut the video off because I didn't have, I just filmed it for a couple minutes and I cut it off. And live on the show, I'm joking and I'm saying, oh, I'm going to start a Patreon and, you guys are going to have to pay me to watch this video and blah, blah, blah. And right after I say this, right. So right after I say this, you hear a male voice.
I've heard you make that threat before.
And
Yeah.
well, I'd probably be
Is that
pretty
a
good
way, Homer?
financially if I can follow through with some of those those threats. What's that? Uh-oh.
Was that a way, Homer? It took you a second. It was really counting for the delay there. But
Away.
anyway, yes, please don't worry about my fucking stupid joke.
Yes. No.
It's something you get on the way home, because I made that joke and then it took like 30 seconds to. Yes, get to the story. Get to the story. Don't listen to me.
Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, so we are doing the, we're doing that, and you hear the voice, and we don't really know what it says. I have an idea of what I think it says, but I want everybody else to listen to it and get an idea. But essentially, we caught an EVP, and like I said, that week it was just me and V. Pat was not here. There's no man living in my home, and it's definitely over the audio. So that was really fun. It was this guy Dason from he's got a podcast that's called What's the Channel Called, and he's the one that caught it, and he has been actually going through the previous episodes, and he's found all kinds of fun anomalies. So it's been
Really?
oh yeah, he's found all
What
kinds.
other episodes?
Hold on a second. I'm so sorry. This fucking cat. I'm throwing my cat around trying to get him away from me. Ow, he's attacking me. So I'm being murdered right now by a cat. Anyway, a couple of episodes. I've got a whole list actually. But he's not done going through them yet. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold off. But he's found all kinds of things. So if you go on like the Spotify app and you go to like listen to you can listen to the podcast, and you can slow it down. And when you slow it down, then you can really like hear the stuff. And he's like like some of this stuff, like he sends it to me, sends me the timestamp, and then he'll send me something that'll be like he'll be like, I don't know if that's just you in the background. He's like, but and then I confirm whether or not it was possibly me. But there are some things that are unexplained. So shout out to Dason for putting the time in and doing this. I think it's pretty exciting. So that's where we're at.
I think we should try to enlist a couple people to do this and go through and re-listen to all of our episodes one by one, just for the boost in downloads alone.
Well, I mean, if they want to, they can. That's on them. But it is a lot of work. But obviously then you get the credit for finding it if you find something. So if you guys want to, what we're finding is that, there are weird things happening. And, is it because I'm recording in my bedroom and that's where my ghosty friend is, or, is it something else? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. So that's pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So that's been, basically the happenings of the past week. It's been, interesting.
I made a new Twitter account.
Did you?
I wanted to pimp it. Yeah, I wanted to pimp it real quick because.
Sure.
So I had to. My other one, I had to make private because I'm a crazy paranoid person, and it was. I don't. Not that I compare myself to a celebrity or anything, but I think there's something that. Do you really want to leave 5 years worth of Twitter posts or live journal posts or anything up there on social media? I feel like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with wiping the chalkboard clean every couple years or so.
Yeah.
Just especially when you're someone like me who thinks that they're funny and says a lot of stupid shit. And, I just think that sometimes it's good to just kind of wipe that clean and move on. And because moving forward with the show, I definitely want to stick with the Dr. X thing for now, at least.
Sure.
So yeah, I made a Dr. X Twitter. It's just Dr. X2112 at twitter.com. And it's just going to be for, all of my podcasting stuff. And then also when I do the gaming stuff where I do like that live streaming RPG shit. Yeah. So that way, all that stuff falls under one umbrella, and I could do that. My other one, I'm not going to delete, but it's locked out. I doubt I'll use it at all, but I could at least use it to keep following the other people that I was already following on there. So
we'll definitely have to link you and have people start following that one.
Well, most people already have,
But, see, I didn't. Yeah, I just looked it up. I wouldn't follow you yet. Wow, I'm so Rude.
No, it's all right. I'm sure you get inundated. You got 1,500 of them. How are you going to remember one or two?
I know. I got so many now.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was as soon as I posted, and it always happens. So like, I'll wait until I get right after the number, but I like to celebrate, and I always like to have a reason to celebrate anyway. And so I waited until I got to 1502, and as soon as I posted it, I was down to 1498, and I was like, God fucking damn it.
Right. I actually, speaking of Twitter accounts, this is super like nerdy and like, I don't know, stroking our own egos here. But I actually looked up I was going through, I was making the Dr. X Twitter, and I was trying to figure out, like, I don't know, I was doing it, but I didn't want it tied into my email or my phone number or anything like that. So I'm going through like the Twitter stuff. And then I somehow wound up on like a verified account. And I just thought it meant like, sometimes it doesn't let you do stuff until you verify your email address or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was referring to, but it was actually referring to blue checkmark verify your Twitter account. So I'm looking at this page, and I had never looked at the like stipulations before to get verified. And I am more than qualified to get my account verified as a filmmaker. Based on what they require you to have done and how many IMDb credits you need, I have like 5 times as many as what Twitter requires to be verified as a like a filmmaker, you know what I mean? Or an artist or an actor or whatever. So then I was thinking, like, how funny would that be to actually get that done? So I might just lay low on Twitter with the Dr. X thing for a while until I can get that one worked out, and then come back as verified pedo. So shit. Now it's my fucking name. So you know what I mean? This is why anonymity in the internet is so ridiculous, is because, like, unless you're like a Unabomber that is like super like anal retentive about this stuff.
Dr. X, don't compare yourself to the Unabomber right now. You've already done enough by saying your own name.
Haven't I done enough damage? Haven't I besmirched my name enough? Fucking, I know. No, I can't win with this shit. This is like one of those, like, I'm destined to just.
You're gonna be known for the show. It's just what it is. No, I understand what you mean, though. It is very hard to have the anonymity on the internet. It's almost impossible. Especially, the only way you can really do it is if you start from the get-go. Otherwise, you've left a footprint, and you're just about done. I mean, you can make it harder, to find things and stuff, but you can't completely scrub your whole, internet presence. And it's crazy how that works.
Well, and kind of dovetailing into tonight's topic a little bit, I know one of the problems that I had, the thing that led to my anal retentiveness as far as Twitter goes, is I had my kids are starting to get on social media now, for better or worse, and we can pick that apart later. But it's mostly my daughter. My son doesn't give a fuck. People text him, he doesn't respond. He doesn't give a shit. But my daughter's on Snapchat, my daughter's on TikTok, and all this stuff. So I create accounts just to kind of interact with her and follow her. And
get you.
Hers.
Go ahead.
What?
I just
and my well, I mean, as far as Snapchat and TikTok goes, so like I had made a Snapchat account to follow her Snapchats, because you got to monitor what they're doing, right? Like, you can't just let them exist on social media. And the account name that I used, without even thinking, was the same as my Twitter account.
Oh,
same as my Twitter account name. And Snapchat is done off your phone number, right? So like sometimes when I go into Snapchat, I'll see like, oh, like, do you want to add this person? And it's like a plumber that I had to deal with at work that day, who I just added their phone number, but they have a Snapchat account associated with their phone number. So now I can see them. But the thing is, now they can see me. And if they look at that name and they're like, huh, and then they go into my Twitter, then boom, they found my Twitter. Even though it doesn't say my name on there, it's the same username that I used on. So I mean, all that stuff's been corrected, and that Twitter's locked down, and ain't nothing new going on in there. But still, it's one of those things where, like, you don't realize. Like, I remember having, back in like 2000, like, I had a live journal, and I thought this was the coolest thing in the world. And it was me and about 15 people. that I was friends with either from real life or that I kind of met through LiveJournal. And we would write in our live journals and we'd read each other's live journals and we'd comment and talk and all this stuff. And never gave a second thought that like other people could come across this and then read all this shit that I was writing about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like never fucking thought about it. Like I would go to a party and over the weekend and then come to work on Monday and I'd be sitting at my desk job. I worked in public relations and I'm, you know, just sitting there and I'm writing a LiveJournal post about my weekend. And I would talk about going to a party and I ran into this fucking prick and all this stuff. Never realizing that fucking prick was then probably could have access to my LiveJournal, or even worse, there was people out there that would read that, know it was about that fucking prick, and then email that fucking prick a link.
Yeah.
Just to be like, oh, look what pedo I fucking said it again. Like, look.
We'll get there.
I literally cannot stop saying my own name. That's the takeaway from all this.
Usually it's me that's doing it. So
yeah. So I don't know. That's my point about social media and the anatomy of the internet. Like it just doesn't. It's too hard, and
it is hard. It is hard. I mean, I understand. Not wanting, certain, like I don't have. My mom recently made a Twitter account, and so the first thing I did was I found her account and I blocked her because she doesn't
makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, and that's what I told. She was like on the phone with me, like while she's making a Twitter account, and I'm like kind of walking her through it, and I was like, don't go to my Twitter. Don't even go to my Twitter. And so as soon as she's like, oh yeah, I made it, I was like, oh, okay. And I went and found her and blocked her immediately. So, that's what I do to combat it. I mean, I started coming out and being open about, just kind of who I am in general. And, when it all started, when I just decided I was going to just be myself, like on Facebook, pretty much all of my family disowned me because they thought I was a prostitute, and it's just fucking weird. And I don't, which is fine. I don't have anything against prostitutes, but it was very strange. And so, I had a lot of people that, weren't coming to bat for me. And there's other things too. They found out I was a witch and it was terrible, but I'm not going to fucking hide who I am. If I really believe in the things that I believe in, the values and things that I believe in, then I need to represent them. And so, and it was hard. It was hard to make that switch, because I definitely came with some sacrifice, but I mean, it was sacrifices that in the end, I'm happy I made. So, you just got to decide if that's worth it.
Yeah, I get myself in trouble because I'm a big fan of hyperbole, and I'll say things that aren't necessarily 100% medically accurate just because of what I interpret as being a joke, right?
Sure.
Kind of like, not I don't want to sit here and compare myself to Hunter S. Thompson, but if you look at like Hunter S. Thompson and like how none of that stuff he wrote was real. Like he didn't like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is not based on a fucking true story.
Right.
Like that was he went to Las Vegas probably to cover that the motorcycle race or whatever. Like and there's aspects of that were probably true, but then there was a lot of embellishment and there was a lot of things that were done for the sake of the narrative. And it's kind of like what you're starting to see become more and more popular nowadays, where what people call like creative nonfiction, where they take things that are kind of true. You look like these mumblecore movies that were really big about 10 years ago that kind of played off like documentaries. They seemed to be, very realistic and grounded in reality, but of course they were films. They weren't real.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I do sometimes with Twitter a lot is I'll take things and I'll say things for effect or to kind of like make the joke or illustrate juxtaposition, but it's not necessarily 100% true. And that can sometimes get me in trouble because certain people will read that and be like, well, why did you say this? That's not how it happened. And I'm like, well, I said it for comedic effect. And they're like, but nobody laughed. Like you got one like, and it's from like a Russian footbot or something. You know what I mean? Like what's
you laughed
like,
though.
Like what's the benefit? What's the benefit of you putting this stuff out there if literally no one pays attention and nobody gives a shit? And, it makes me laugh. I guess I don't know what to really say, but I mean, I think that there's what you're. It's interesting because I think we both we come at this like fundamental problem from completely different angles. Because for you, it's all about you being more authentic to who you really are, right?
Yeah.
But from my perspective, for me, it's me kind of being less authentic and more theatric than what I actually am. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of like
Well,
telling a story, or that's what it kind of is for me.
well,
That's
so
what social media has always been for me. It's just kind of like playing make believe, I guess. I
I
don't
had
know.
posted on Twitter one day about this and how difficult it is when, say, I go out on a date with somebody that I barely know. And, one of the first things I tell them is that, I have a podcast that I do every week. So, of course, they go and listen to the podcast and then they get to know me through the podcast, but they don't get to know me through me. And that's kind of an issue. Because, not that anything that I say is untrue. It's not, but it's definitely, there's definitely aspects about my life that are extremely exaggerated. Like I don't well, I was going to say I don't just like sit around my house.
See, if you say it, then it just.
Well, I was going to say, like, I don't sit around my house with my tits hanging out all the time, but that's not necessarily true. Yeah. Like, so I don't know. Maybe I am a little more true to myself than I thought. No, I mean, obviously, like and we'll get into that. Like I tell these stories and like all these dirty stories and things like that. Like I'm a mom, like I'm a full-time mom. I don't just like have random men to my house all the time. I'm not just like partying every fucking night of the week. Like that's not, those things do happen, but it paints a bad picture because then you don't see the other half of my life that I live, day to day. I still got to fucking grocery shop like everybody else does, so, but, so I understand what you're getting at, where it can be misconstrued because I've, personally that's happened to me. So, it's difficult to, really, I don't know. And some people, they just take it wrong. So yes, I've had people, not interested anymore because my life's a little too intense, a little too hardcore for them. And, but it's funny because they never really knew that. They just assume so. But whatever. I don't take it personally.
I think that's something that maybe is just I don't think it has so much to do with podcasting. I think that's just being a parent in general is the duality to where like you can still have all of these these like side projects and like be involved in all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you probably have to like, fold laundry and make someone's lunch for tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
right. So
like you.
Yeah, I mean, getting into it, that's kind of what we're going to talk about, how it is to be a parent when you kind of live this fringe life. It's almost like having a double life because I don't want my kid to do the shit that I do. And and we'll talk about that. But yeah, so I have a daughter. I have one child I cannot have anymore, and I'm fine with that. And she's 9. And Pat, you have 2?
Yeah, 9 and 10, and I also cannot have any more because I got snipped.
You got the old snipperoo, did you?
Yeah,
that's smart.
I caught my limit. I'm good.
I haven't gotten to that point yet, but it's coming. Well, I guess I'm not getting snipped, but actually, it's pretty fucking gruesome. Let me tell it real quick. This is I guess a trigger warning. I don't know. So I've got, in case, actually a lot of people don't know, I have cervical cancer. So I have to get I'm getting a hysterectomy. And I've learned recently that the way that they do hysterectomies now is that they don't really, like they make a teeny tiny incision like on your abdomen, but they pull your entire uterus out through your vagina. So, I mean, that's interesting. I'll find out, when it happens, but, yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I'll be asleep. So
I would have assumed that's just how they do it. I guess I never really spent that much time thinking about it, but if you're trying to remove something that's up there, that seems like the most natural point of
you just go in and pull it out.
Right.
Just grab a hole and just pull it right out. No, it's they used to like actually cut your abdomen open. You got a big old kind of like a C-section, and they would take it out that way. But it's less invasive to do it this way. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it'll be coming out, and then like they'll create like a wall for me, like a new cervix. But it's just like instead of having like a spongy cervix, you just have a spongy wall. So
it's like drywall. They put up some sheetrock, a couple.
Yeah, I'll give $100 to the first person that can puncture it. Just I'm just joking. Please don't do that. I'd rather not. So yeah, it'll be fun. But no, I can't have any more kids. That's okay. I love my child, but I'm not parent material. Um, but it's tough. It is. It's rough to be a parent and be the kind of person that I am, because I've got a lot of friends that, and I'm in that weird age where like a lot of my friends are like still having kids. Everybody's still, young enough to have kids. Some people already had kids. They're having more, whatever. And, they grow up. They definitely grow up. And, I guess I feel like I haven't.
Yes, they they definitely do. Oh, you're talking about the people grow up when they have
Yes, the adults. Yes.
all right. Yes.
Yeah. The adults kind of grow up and they really like lose their individuality. And, their days go from, kayaking on a Saturday, drinking with your buddies down the river to, going to Chuck E. Cheese and, and that's fine. That there's nothing wrong with doing the whole parent thing. Like, it's not your kid's fault that you have kids, right? They didn't choose to be born. You chose to have them. So, you have a responsibility to do those things. But I remember, especially because I had my daughter at 20. I was really young, and
Yeah.
I couldn't even drink yet. And other people that were my age that had their children, my best friend, actually me and my best friend, our children are 3 days apart. And that was not
Wow.
planned. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, destiny. And so she really took on like the mom role. And like I have my mom has pretty much consistently taken my daughter just about every weekend since she was born. They're really close, and that's wonderful. It's a great thing. I'm happy because they tell you it takes a village. You know what I mean? There's no reason for me not to let
Right.
my child have a relationship with a grandmother. And at the same time, then that gives me a little bit more freedom to go and do things and be myself when I don't have my daughter. I'm not mom when she's not here. I'm Asher's and I'm a whore. And when she's here, I'm mom. So anyway, but I was judged a lot for that. People would be like, oh, she doesn't have her kid and she's out drinking and she's doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, fuck you. You're just jealous that you don't have a babysitter. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It was weird. And,
Right.
I still feel like to this day, everybody's like, they get upset that I can do those things. And it's like, I guess, I don't know. It's a weird thing. And it's like, that's my big thing is that you still have to be who you are. Like, I didn't, a lot of these people, like they'll become mom or they'll become dad. And it's not just like, it becomes a part of their personality. It just becomes their entire personality. They don't have any other personality, but I'm a parent. And I think that's really unhealthy.
Well, you have to look at how much they had before. Yeah. I think if it's also kind of just boring, and like, what are you bringing to the table? Who are you raising? If everyone's just reading off a script or going down a checklist, like, you're not bringing any flair, individuality, or diversity to the world. You're just
Right.
kind of doing what everyone else before you did with mediocre results, and
Right.
there's not gonna be any great leaps, or history's made by the outliers, right? So I somewhat similar, somewhat different situation. I think, as far as well, first of all, parents in general are the most judgmental fucking people you'll ever meet in your whole entire life. So like anybody that like when other people like kind of say shit to me, which I don't get a whole lot because I'm 6'4", so a lot of people don't talk shit to me in general, let alone about my parenting techniques. But like, just remember, like, how often are you at Target? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're better than this. But like, I know that I'm out in public and I see people sometimes, and I'm like, oh, those are fucking terrible parents. Or like, look at what they're doing. Blah blah blah. Like, that's something that we inherently do, is that we judge other parents so that we feel better about the job that we're doing. At least I do a lot, and I see that a lot with my peers. Now, I don't have a lot of peers that are parents. I was definitely the first one in my group of friends to do this. Right.
Okay.
There was a couple instances of like girls that got whoopsie pregnant and then just kind of stopped coming around.
Okay.
And we didn't, they were just like anomalies, and it was no one we were super close with. My son, I had my son when I was 29. So I'm basically how old you were now
Yeah.
when I had my first kid. So
And
I
can't
had
imagine. I cannot fucking imagine having one now. Like, I'm almost done.
yeah.
I'm halfway there. I'm almost finished.
Well, that's the way I feel. And, my best friend, who's my son's godfather, and I'm his son's godfather, he had his first kid at 38.
Wow.
And his wife is already pregnant with her second one. Now, she's a little bit younger, so that's kind of a different situation.
Sure.
But still, right, I'm halfway done. My son's 10. You know what I mean? I'll be 47, 48 when he turns 18. When I'm 21, when he turns 21, I'll be 50. I like that.
Right.
That sounds about right to me. That's kind of the way I want this to play out.
Well, because then when you have grandkids, you'll still have the stamina for the grandkids. You'll be able to be a part of your grandchildren's life. So.
Oh, I don't give a shit about any of that. I just don't want to
Don't bring those babies around me.
I don't want to be 65 having a fist fight with a 17-year-old.
Yeah, that's true too.
I'll be 48, 45 fighting with my kid on the lawn on Easter Sunday. That'll be, I'll still have some spring in my step.
I'm glad you have standards.
Right. That one's pulled from experience. If you don't think that was a very specific thing that happened to me when I was 15, that was not just made up. That was pulled from the annals of history. But
yeah.
So, but as far as you're saying, is that that you still went out and shit? I was lucky enough. Should watch how I say this, but I mean, I didn't have full custody of my kids until I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
So, I still had it the first couple years where I had joint custody, to where it was an every other weekend thing, and it was for a week here and a week there. So I had that time off.
Right.
And I made the most of it. Trust me. It was back to business as usual. And even though I was, in my early 30s at that point, I was I was also going back to school, but so for you to say hey, I was 25 and my mom was watching my daughter every weekend, don't fucking feel bad about that. I wouldn't want to, if I look at two people and say, you talked about you and your friend, where, two girls get knocked up at 20, and one of them immediately goes into the mom life and embraces it and throws everything, her social life and her friends are going out behind. And then I have another girl that's, doing the mom thing, but doing it with help and still going out and having a good time. When you flash forward 10 years, I think that you're going to be the one that's more well-adjusted, as opposed to the other one who's probably going to be kind of bitter and resentful.
Yeah, I agree with
that. Even if they're not right now, that shit catches up to you. Wait till I'm about to turn 40 in less than a month. Trust me, there's lots. The older you get, the more time there is to take inventory and think about shit that you missed out on.
Yeah.
And I will never regret my children or any kind of, anything that I didn't do at this point, it's my own fucking fault. I don't look back and say that I missed out on anything because I became a parent. You know what I mean? Because I still had opportunity to go and do shit, and I still did it. Every one of those IMDb credits that I have, I came after my son was born.
Yeah.
For the most part. But my 20s, that was band time. I played in a band, I DJ'd, and me stopping playing bass and DJing in my late 20s was probably for the best, because I'd be probably still stuck in a K-hole right now somewhere in Lincoln Park. Unable to get out.
Still the same K-hole.
I'd be in that alley behind Neo, fucking living in a dumpster, like Oscar the Grouch.
That's
with a garbage can on my head.
That's what I say to my friend. I tell her, I'm the problem with stuff like that, which of course I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to sit down and fucking judge you and tell you how to live your life.
Oh yeah, you are. We went over this. What was exhibit A of my argument today? Parents are the most judgmental people in the world. You bet you
okay, I'm going to judge you, and I'm going to say, listen, this is how you should live your life, because one of these days, your kids, you're not raising kids, you're raising adults. and they're going to
Right.
go on and they're going to have their own life. And I'm not going to be the one standing here when my nest is empty going, who the fuck am I? You know, that's not going to be
Right.
what I'm going to do. And so I've
Right.
chosen to do that, you know, early on, because that's not fair to me. You know, I still have to live after my kids leave. Like, it's, you know, it's the way it is. So I think that it's just extremely unhealthy to be that way. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should fucking party. I mean, that's whatever you like to do in your spare time. All I'm saying is that you should still do those things that you did before kids, in a way, after kids. I mean, no, you can't be in a K-hole every weekend, but you can be in a K-hole every other weekend. And I'm just kidding.
Well, you know why? Because that's good, because what you're doing is you're giving them a roadmap. So when they find themselves in a K-hole one Sunday morning,
yeah,
they can say, "Oh, well, this is what Dad had. This is how Dad got out of it when he was stuck, and this is how I'm going to get out of it." You know, I've seen my parents flounder around on the bathroom floor in the grasp of a bad trip. This is how I successfully navigate a robo trip. Like,
yeah, you
you
gotta
know,
help the kids. I mean, that's important.
but I mean, like, just diverging from that for a second. But I think that basic, like, the whole thing about setting an example, not so much for babies and toddlers, but setting an example for young adults.
Yes.
If
Right.
they see you involved in things, if they see you have passions and interests, then they're more likely to develop ones of their own. And if you
Right.
are the type of person that is all about, like, hey, I still like to write, so, you know, 1 month a year, Daddy's going to write a novel or whatever, then
Whatever it is,
it's,
right.
yeah, I feel like that creates a space for them to where they can be like, you know, I really like to paint, or I really like to sew, or I really like to build weird shit out of Play-Doh, like fucking whatever. Like, you're creating an atmosphere where we all have interests, we all have hobbies, we all have passions, and we all explore them.
Right.
You know, instead of me like yelling at my kid and making him fucking play soccer or something, you know, because I don't know what else to do and everyone else plays baseball. Well, you're going to be the best baseball player. Like, you're going to do what the neighbors are doing, except I'm going to put so much pressure on you to be better than them.
Yeah.
Like, that's unimaginative and fucking destructive for a child.
Yeah.
But saying, like, hey, like, you know, Dad likes to act and stuff, and he makes movies with his friends, and, you know, like just a couple months ago we did that Killer Santa movie, and my son, he in the summers he does Second City, he acts and he does like improv class and shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, no, he's not going to be an improv guy. We've already had that fucking discussion. But I mean,
I will disown you if you're getting an improv.
Like, you're just doing this to get the basis to go into the writing program. I'm not going to live with a fucking improv jagoff. I'm living upstairs. I don't need any roommates that are in improv troops. I fucking spent my time doing that. But yeah, but like, just, you know, there's opportunities here. He can do it. He can try it if he likes it. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, same thing with my daughter and like her social media stuff. Like, you know, we went out to dinner one night, just me and her, and I was talking to her. She's a very hard person to buy for because she's not really like interested in shit. Like, if you went to my son and was like, all right, I'm going to buy you a present, what do you want? Like, he would immediately name like a video game or a Lego set or something, you know. But I go to my daughter, what do you want? She's like, I don't know, you know. And we were having dinner together one night, just me and her, and I noticed that she was like super into like her TikTok and like getting followers and being able to stream and stuff. And I was like, all right. And I'm like, hey, do you want me to buy you some TikTok followers? And she's like, what? Like, how does that work? I'm like, please. Like, you can go on a website for like $8. I can get you like, you know, 600 TikTok followers. And she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And I did it. And she, you know, by the time we were done with dinner, she had 600 new followers. And I got more of a reaction from that than any time that I took my son to Target, and was like, all right, go pick out Legos. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I think but that's because they're people on their own too. And especially at the age that we're at now with our kids, we're like, they're slowly becoming adults, and or at least individual personalities.
They're really starting to come into their own at this age.
And just being able, if you're an individual and you're okay with not being in the box, then you really give them the greatest canvas possible to be individuals themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, if my son were to come to me and say, hey, I want to play lacrosse, I'd be like, I guess I'm going to watch fucking lacrosse games now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, pretty much. My kid's very weird. I mean, she is it's my kid. No, she's a weird individual, but she's not bad weird, but she is very, and I say it all the time, she's going to be president one day because this child can do anything that she wants to do. She is not insecure at all. She's fucking fearless and she will do anything. So we were talking earlier, cause she stayed at my mom's and she's doing virtual school and she was doing school and she had, she had thrown a fit because my kids also got ADHD and virtual school is really hard. And, so she called me and I'm talking to her for a minute and I'm like trying to explain the importance of doing school. And she's like, well, I don't need school because I'm going to be a YouTuber. It's what she says. She's already got 5 YouTube channels planned out, guys. She's going to be a YouTuber and that's what she wants to do.
Jesus.
And I told her, I'm like, listen, and she is very creative. She can tell you a story like I've never seen before. But I explained to her, I'm like, that's great. You can be a YouTuber, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. And in order for you to do that, you're at least going to have an elementary school education. And, it's not that like, I definitely support the things that she wants to do. Now, is she really going to grow up to be a YouTuber? Probably not because, that's not that she can't, but YouTube's probably not even going to be relevant by the time she's an adult. But I do think it's important to support those ideas and those things and stuff like that to just kind of, be that person. I was always told that I couldn't do things my whole life. Every single time I approached my parent, my mom, about something that I wanted to do, she'd just completely shut it down every single time. And the crazy thing is that I've done all those things. I've done them all and I've been successful at doing them. And even now at almost 30, she criticizes what I'm doing now. So that's just the person she is. So it doesn't matter. I can't please her. I don't want that kind of relationship with my child. I'm totally opposite of like being that person. So I'm not going to like force my kid into things that she's not into. She's not into sports. She's into some arts. So I would like to get her into some things. She took karate for a while, but she didn't like it. I just ask that she tries things. And if she chooses not to like them, then we don't do them. Now, getting back into like how this is kind of difficult is I went to one of her school Halloween parties back when, before COVID. And when I showed up to the school Halloween party, there were other parents there volunteering, but I was the only parent that was dressed up in a costume. And
what was your costume?
A sexy cat. I'm just kidding. I just have like this like skeleton dress and I wore it and I fucking, did a little extra makeup and stuff. And I was a skeleton. I was a fat skeleton actually. And so, but it didn't take that much effort for me to put into, but I definitely stood out and none of the parents talked to me, none of them. And this happens. I mean, it always happens. I go to these events and I'm really, seen as kind of weird and, some type of enigma. She does Girl Scouts and I go to the Girl Scout meetings and again, I'm singled out because I'm the weird one. And it's really, it kind of sucks. And then on top of that, there's people that have had kids younger than I did, but I did have my child pretty young. And so I'm usually the youngest. And all these people are, they're, in their middle ages, they're older. So, I do always stick out. And then, we start talking about jobs and stuff. And when I try to like explain to these people what I do, it it gets weird.
Yeah.
So, and I do have to like consider that because I don't want my kid to be missing out on play dates and stuff like that because of, the way that I am. Now, granted, there's nothing wrong with what I do. Obviously, you guys listen to the show, it's you guys like this weird shit. So, there's nothing wrong with what I do. And I believe it's very much a science and I take it seriously. But, according to most people, it is strange. I actually had, gosh, we got so quick into the episode. I forgot to talk about this. And we got something else to talk about. We'll get there. I had somebody call me today because I've been looking for a regular people job because it's expensive to travel to all these places and do these investigations. And the people on the internet don't pay me enough money to do it. So, so I've been looking for like some part-time work. So that way I have a promised paycheck and I can do these things. Anyway, so I got a call today for some type of like interview or something. And it wasn't a job that I was going to take. Like right off the rip, it was something I didn't want to do. I wasn't interested in it at all. The benefits weren't enough. And so, I already knew, but then we get into the conversation and the guy looks at my resume, and I've been doing this I've been doing this stuff full time for a year now. So I have a big gap in my resume, and that's not too strange in the days of COVID. But he did ask about it, and I told him, I was like, well, it's not that I'm not working. It's just that I'm I'm a paranormal investigator. And he's like, what? And so, he starts, asking a bunch of questions, and I kind of tell him what I do. I'm talking about the documentary. I told him about the show. He's probably listening. Hi, Ryan. That's his name. Because
hire her.
Yes. Well, he would. He's like, oh, you're definitely going to get this job. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. I don't want the job. So we got into we were talking about, I was just kind of explaining to him the science of my ultra terrestrial theory and how I think that these things are just other, dimensional beings, whatever. And he's like, oh yeah. He was like, well, and this dude totally loses his shit and he fucking slips. And he's like, well, he was like, oh no, so excuse my language, because he said fuck. And I was like, oh no, please go on. He's like, I've done DMT. And he starts I swear to God, he starts
Ryan, hit me up on Twitter at Dr. X2112 and we'll hang out. I will come.
we'll do some DMT together. Yeah, no, he's telling me about his DMT experience, and he's talking about how he saw other dimensional beings and other people have had the same experience. And he's right about this. And I would love to do an episode on it. I actually plan, no, not a lot of people know this yet. I plan on making a separate, a feature length documentary on DMT and ultra terrestrial encounters. And
let me be a part of it.
Absolutely. Because what I'm most likely, I'm about, not, as long as my health is okay, I'm probably going to do DMT and share the experience. So, it will be a lot of fun. Now, this is still a little bit of ways out, but I told him, I was telling him, I was like, that's crazy because I want to do this DMT, documentary, and he's all for it. He wants to be a part of it. So
100%. I actually wanted to do that where I'm like, but I have no idea how to get it. And
I don't either. But I can find it, I'm sure.
Well, I guess that I haven't tried that hard just because I don't want to be that dude that's always asking people for DMT.
Right.
But
yeah.
But I thought it's a half an hour, right? Because that's how long it's supposed to take. I'm like, how hard would it be just to get it and then go and sit in a hotel room for half an hour with the camera running and just record everything that outwardly is happening, you know what I mean? And then as soon as it's done, then record yourself talking about it and write it down. And then as the days kind of follow, make notes and stuff and revisit all that.
Yeah.
So it would be a very easy thing to document.
For sure. For sure. And everybody has these experiences with it and they're all very, I'm not going to get too big into it because like I said, it's, I prefer to talk about it just on its own in a whole show because it is very interesting. But my, one of my boyfriends, he's the one that kind of gave me the idea because he was talking about how he's done DMT and we were talking about his experience and it matched somebody else's that told me I've never done it. And so, and so I just really
I don't even know how to go about it, like how much it costs or like what the deal is. Like I know a little bit. Like I've researched it. I know you're supposed to like smoke it and stuff, and but as far as like the weights and measures and how much you're supposed to get and what the street value is and all that shit. I tried doing the salvia thing years ago when you can order that stuff off the internet. I never got a reaction out of it, but the chick I was dating at the time did. It got a super strong, very borderline negative outcome with it, where she thought things in her room were possessed, and she had a class A fucking freak out, and I threw the shit out after that. But
well, we're gonna have a drug episode soon. But
hopefully on DMT.
Hopefully on DMT. We'll take DMT and record this show. I don't think that's a good idea. But my point was on the episode about parenting Okay,
Right.
you
Well, there
can
you
do
go.
DMT while being a parent. Just don't do it around your fucking kids, please. That is
Right.
different.
Well,
Please.
that was the first point I made was get a hotel room. You know what I mean?
Yes, get a
Like,
hotel. Right, do it safe. That's like one of my big things. Like, yes, I drink, I smoke pot, I party. Okay, but and that's about it really. I just drink and I smoke pot and I might do some psychedelic. I haven't done any in years, but I would probably in a safe environment. And I, I'll take a perk
yeah,
here and there. But I don't like I won't even like get high with my kid around. Like I won't do it. And more power to people. I know a lot of people use
yeah,
weed as like a medicine, and that's great. I don't. I use it to get high, and so there's no reason for me to have to do a maintenance dose at all. But I don't now. I don't do any of that around her. I don't even like have a beer around her. I don't know. I just because it's my luck that like I will have a beer and then something will happen and I have to drive her to the hospital and I can't because I had beer. So or I'm high or whatever.
yeah. I kind of I developed, I think, the same habits, and maybe it's because we had such similar, you know, similar situations when our kids were younger, where we had definite times when we were parents, but we
Right.
still had times that we were off the clock.
Yeah.
And when I was doing that, if I only have my kids, 2 days every 2 weeks, or a little bit more than that, because then I had the other one and I was switching off custody and stuff. But if I'm only a parent 4 out of every 14 days, Jesus Christ, I could stay sober for those fucking 4 days. You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And then when they leave, not that I was drinking like those other 10 straight. I wouldn't go on like a 10-day bender and then just clean up when the kids were there. But I was able to pick and choose my battles, and so I was able to just separate the two. And I think that people that are kind of, that just from Jump Street, or, they're married and they have the kid and it's the husband and wife at home with the kid all the time,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
they kind of get more in the habit of drinking and partying around the kid because they don't get that schism. They don't get that like escape. And
Yeah.
I
And
never
that's
got it.
fine. Do what you do. I mean, that's
Well, no, we're being judgy parents here. No, I don't think that's. I think you're asking for trouble. I don't like to drink around my kids. It happens every once in a while, and I definitely, and that's just because like, I used to have a neighbor that lived down the block that I had known since high school, and he would come over and we'd get wasted in the garage, and then I'd come in the house and go to bed, and like the kids would be there, and they'd look at me like, "Holy shit, what's wrong with that?"
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, and that's how like 2 summers ago we had this party with my best friend who has she's got 2 kids now, and then the one that's in very similar age to mine. And not just her, but like other parent friends that we had, and like all the kids are there, and and they're all drinking and they're getting fucked up. And at one point, like I'm outside by myself with like 7 kids, and there's a fucking fire in the middle of the yard, and all the kids are like below, like they're under age 8. And I'm like, my kid is stupid and she's clumsy as fuck. So chances are she's going to go running and then she's going to trip and fall right in the fire. And that's my brain because I have severe anxiety. So I'm like freaking, I can't relax. Like I cannot relax. I'm freaking out.
And you're also a witch, so you're like, oh, someone's gonna throw a girl in the fire.
It makes sense.
DNA memory.
I can't do that kind of stuff. I don't know. I feel like I need to be on my A game around my kid. Now, the older she gets, the easier it gets, so,
Right.
it's because she doesn't really, she'll go to bed and I'm like, okay, she's good. I can sit here and smoke a bowl. It's fine, but like partying around her, that's definitely, especially like when I get drunk, I like to get naked and fucking, I'm not going to subject my kid to that shit. Like that's
Good call. Yeah, for me, it's just like people that this is something I used to run into back when I was just out of high school, where you'd have the friends that would like get high at work, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, man, like I always smoke a joint on the way to work, or on my lunch break, I'll go out and I'll smoke a bowl and I'll come back into work." And I'd be like, "Well, why do you want to be high at work? Like it's work. Like that's not fun.
yeah.
Like you're supposed to want to get high and watch Futurama and like eat
Right.
Funyuns or something. Like why do you want to get high and work at Subway? Like that's something like a waste of time." And it's the same thing about like getting drunk around your kids. Like that's not my idea of a good time.
No.
Like I like being around my kids. Good time. Getting drunk with my friends, good time. Getting drunk around my kids, it's not the same.
It's not a good time.
Yeah, it's like, because they're annoying. It's just like, you're not on the same level as me. You don't get this. Not saying that it doesn't happen infrequently, or that
you're like, here, this.
Yeah, or no, like I'll just get rocked and we'll watch Big Trouble in Little China or something and like laugh our asses off. But like in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing that I want to do on a regular basis. Right. It's not me getting loaded. It's a different. I don't want to say become a different person, but it's not conducive to like the home life. And maybe that is me developing another personality, because you were saying about like, when you put yourself all into parenting, you lose this sense of individuality. Maybe this is me just creating another facet of my own personality. You know, what you were saying earlier about feeling out of place when you go to these school functions or the Girl Scout functions or whatever. Yeah, I'm the same fucking way. And I don't look like a big titty 20-year-old witch. Like I look the fucking part. And that's kind of works to my benefit, because they look at me and they're like, oh, like you're a very tall Irish man on the south side of Chicago. You fit right in. And then they ask me what I do for a living, and it's very in line with what people in this neighborhood do. And everything is kind of like, okay, like I check the boxes, but internally, like, no, I just assume everybody's older than me, and this is something that like, so my son's in the Scouts, and like, we see this with the other parents all the time. There's parents that we interact with in the Scouts that seem like your peers, like they seem like your age and like normal people. And then there's other parents in the Scouts that really have this vibe where like you want to call them like Mr. Anderson and like Mrs. Beneducci or something. Like they just feel like adults and they feel old.
Yeah.
And then there's other people
be younger than you and still feel that.
Right. It's just the way they carry themselves. It's just the way they look like their parents, and they look like your parents, and they look like your parents' friends. And you're amazed that like this person that's like 2 years younger than you somehow seems like a decade older.
Right.
And then standing right next to them is somebody that's like your age or maybe even a year older, and they feel like somebody that you would drink with at a party in high school. And she was this woman was like a year older than me. You know what I mean? Like it's all about how you carry yourself and how you come across. And a lot of it though is that feeling like you don't fit in. A lot of that's just like internal, you know what I mean? And true. It's just about not being comfortable in that situation, because I don't know I have a pretty good idea, but like, I feel like the one, we had kind of uncommon childhoods, and because we weren't comfortable in those situations as a kid, we never saw our parents in those situations. Now being a parent, being in those situations with our children, the whole thing just seems foreign and odd. And on the other hand, you have these other people that are relishing these moments because now they get to feel like they turned into their dads or something. You know what I mean? Like when you see these. I mean,
while I definitely didn't have like a traditional childhood. My mom was never like super, like she was never young. Like even now, there's a lot of things she does not know about me. Like it's crazy. I talk to my mom every single day, sometimes for hours during the day. And there's a lot that she just has no fucking clue about. And because she's very adult and she's very kind of strict. And so I guess for me, that's why I'm kind of the opposite of her, because I didn't enjoy that aspect of her. I want my kid to be able to be open with me. I want her to talk to me about stuff. I want her to think, that I want her to at least have some type of idea that I might have some type of knowledge of these experiences. And because she's going to do kid shit. She's going to fuck up. She's going to go and she's going to get trashed and she's going to sleep with that guy and, or whatever. She's going to go and she's going to smoke her first joint, she's going to do those things. And I expect her to do those things. And I don't want to deprive her of those experiences. Now, I'm not like fucking endorsing it. That's definitely not going to be my thing. But I don't want her to like go to a party and get drunk and uncomfortable and feel like she can't call me because she's going to get in trouble. Like that's not the kind of relationship that I want to have with my kid. Like, that's not, because I know, because I've been that kid, like, that's been stranded at the party with the weird dudes. And, I ended up in some pretty bad situations because I couldn't be open about who I was. So, I don't want that with my situation. And, and then in general, just like a different set of morals. One thing that people find fucking bizarre, I mean, a lot of people hold a lot of importance to this as me as a parent, is that I let my kid cuss. Not just that I let my kid cuss, I've always let her cuss. It's just part of her vocabulary. But the reason why was because I've taught her that there's a time and a place to use these words. I've taught her to have a potty mouth responsibly. And she does good at it. And, I've taught her what that means. And my mom hates it. Oh, she hates it. It makes her angry. She's like, well, you just let her cuss and do whatever she wants. Well, I'm sorry. I enjoy when me and my kid are driving in the car. We play this game where we're driving in the car and such a bad parent. And, we start yelling and cussing at the other drivers. And, I just call it the road rage game. And so we'll go off and it's hilarious and we have a good time doing it, but she doesn't look at me and go, you're a bitch. That is not going to happen. And she knows.
Right. Right.
So but like I said, a lot of people are just fucking appalled by this. And it's like, I don't understand why it bothers people so much. Now, she's even at like friends' house, she knows the only places she's allowed to cuss are in the car with me or at home when it's just me. She's not allowed to do it in front of other people because it's disrespectful. And that's what I tell her. Some people might find this disrespectful. You have no right to infringe on them by using those words. So therefore you're not going to. And she doesn't slip, so it's, it's one of those things. So I don't know. She's gotten a little more comfortable at my mom's house and she'll kind of use, some soft core words here and there. But like I said, she's getting older. I was fucking cussing at 9. It was.
That is so funny. I don't know when I started. I know my daughter will from time to time if she feels comfortable, but like my son won't. And that's really funny because like I have a potty mouth. It's just the way I've always been.
Right.
So like I definitely cuss in front of him, but he doesn't do it. And he tries very hard not to. And where my daughter, like we were in a car one day and I don't know if we were listening to music or like if I said something, but it came up and I was like, oh, say this. And I think it was just saying like the word shit or something. It wasn't anything terribly graphic and he wouldn't do it, but she was like shit. Like she had no problem with it. And I think that's because she's got older girl cousins that she hangs out with a lot, and I think they're kind of like one of her cousins. I didn't want to get too much into like the ragging on the two of them personally, but like I'm sure you can appreciate this. She has one cousin that she hangs out with, and one of the things she told me about her was that her and her friends cross the street and go to the gas station sometimes to hang out. And I was like, you stay away from that one. Like that's the girl that's going to be trouble. That girl going to the gas station. I know where that leads to. She's doing hanging out at that gas. Not only that, but it's like hanging out at a truck stop. Like, what the fuck? That's not. It's like you could pick a more like convenient place to get thrown in the back of a van and sped away.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's totally different times now too, and that's that's another thing you have to take into account. Like, it just depends. I remember I got into a big old fight with people, and my child was 6, and I was at someone's New Year's Eve party, someone that I didn't know, and we got into an argument because they thought it was shitty that I didn't at 6 years old let my child play outside by herself. And I'm like, and these aren't parents, by the way. And they thought that was fucked up. They were running the neighborhood at 4 and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, dude, no, that's why kids get murdered and kidnapped. And like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And, thinking about it, I mean, I was outside by myself at that age, but it's different now. And it's not that it's different now so much because the shit still happens. It's just that we know better now. We know a little bit.
That is something that I feel like we could talk about for another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And not really come to not really get to the bottom of. I don't know. I honestly, and I can say this as a kid that grew up 10 years younger than you in the 80s, when no one really gave a shit about whatever the fuck you did.
Right.
compared to now when, we have kids the same age, like, I don't know, was it different? Because I grew up in a very idyllic neighborhood that was all white. It was all suburban. It was all middle class, upper middle class. And there was hinky stuff going on. There was a family that I grew up across the street from, and it turned out that one of the older siblings sexually abused the two younger ones, like systematically for fucking years, right? And then the kid ended up getting a job at a pretzel store. There was an old guy that lived next door to my best friend, and we used to peek in through his window, and he used to always be watching these videos of kids playing with trains. And we used to always laugh that this guy was obsessed with trains. Well, now as an adult looking back, no, he was obsessed with young boys.
Right. Yeah.
We were like, why does this guy always watch these videos of young boys playing with trains? And it was like, we thought he was a trains guy. No, he was a fucking weirdo. And like stuff like that where, it was there. It was just under the surface. And it was probably more of a suppressed society, and we were more naive about things. But was the darkness always there? Or is it that we live in an age now where, because we're all more isolated, it's created an environment for the darkness to grow? Right? I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know. I know that, like, I have 2 children, and we have dogs, and I'll have my son walk the dog up and down the block. And I usually am outside getting stuff out of my car or cleaning out the garage while he's doing it. So I'm at least somewhat aware of what's going on, where he's at. You know what I mean? And I have my eyes on him the whole entire time. But I know, I'm not completely oblivious. It's not like I just yell at the kids to go walk the dogs around the neighborhood, and then, a half an hour later, I wonder where the hell they're at. It's weird, and it is paranoia inducing. And you stop and you think about the way I grew up, and maybe the way you grew up too, where we did go out and play, and we just had to be home by a certain time. And my mom had no idea what I was doing or where I was at, but I was home before it was dark out, and that was just all. And then that was enough,
Yeah. Yep.
And that doesn't feel like it's enough anymore.
No.
And the question is, was it ever enough? Or is there more? I don't know. I think that's a real tough question. But I think, once again, there's certain things that we kind of laughed about being judgy parents earlier. And, but I think at the end of the day, there's certain things that I feel that you leave it up to the parent to decide. And the one thing I would never criticize someone about is the level of protectiveness they show their kids, unless it's like crazy shit. But I don't think you being worried about your kid playing outside alone or wandering off and then coming back at us, I don't think that's you being crazy. You don't have her, you let her outside. She just, she's just not, fucking locked, chained to a radiator somewhere.
Right. Yeah. It's like she doesn't experience things. It's just that, I know my kid, and I know how she is. And she's definitely, even now, she's not mature enough to be in any type of responsible situation, because that's just her, type of person that she is. But, I let her do things. Like, it's not like I don't let her do things. I'll anymore. Like, I'm one of those people. I'm like, don't leave your fucking kids in the car. But nowadays, like, if I'm running into the gas station, she hangs out in the car. And, I make this joke all the time to, like, my friends, and I'm like, listen, she's 9 years old. If it's too hot in the car for her and she can't figure out how the fuck to get out, that's her fault. Like, it's fucked up, but some of the things, yeah, she's allowed to do, but like, I'm not going to be like, oh, go run the neighborhood and come back whenever. Like, it's just not safe to me. Well, because I had an incident where she had these neighborhood boys that she would play with at my mom's house. So we live in an apartment. At my mom's house, she's got a house, and she's got a fenced in yard. So she's allowed to go out in the yard, and, she can hang out there and stuff. But she was 3 years old, and these neighborhood boys that were about 10 years old came and tried to take her out of the yard. And like, it scared the shit out of me.
That's fucked up.
That is fucked up,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are these kids doing to my kid? Like, this is so. I went out there and I went off on these kids. I was pissed. I was like, you don't do it. Like, that's a baby. You don't do that. I was very upset. My mom thought I was
Right.
being a little too. She thought I was being crazy. She thought I was being too cautious. And I'm like, no, dude, what the fuck? Why would they fucking steal it? They were stealing my child from your yard. What are you talking about? So, and I think that was, I think I was still justified in that, because it just depends on a lot of
You
factors.
100% were if
Yeah.
yeah, I think you 100% were. I think if anything, your mom might have been just trying to deflect a little bit, so she didn't feel responsible or something. Like,
Sure. Well, yeah.
I
And I
would,
mean, I was there,
I
so
would
I
lose it
saw it.
too.
I saw it happen, and I stopped it. But who knows? And that's kind of the moment that I decided that, I at least want to do the thing. Like my kid, she doesn't have a cell phone yet. She has an iPad, so I don't, and she doesn't go anywhere without me yet. So I don't really see a reason. But we're kind of starting to get to that age. And, so I definitely want her to have a phone. Like if she's going to be going anywhere by herself, she needs to have a phone. And, things like that, I definitely want to make sure that I at least do everything that I can, because if something did happen to her, I am the one that would have to live with it for the rest of my life. And I think that's on me to decide what I can and cannot live with. So,
Right.
But that's just, I guess that's how I feel
Right.
about. I won't get too much into the preachy shit because, yeah, for the most part, I don't bother other people about how they parent their kids. I don't believe in policing people about how they parent their kids, as long as you're not harming the children in any way or yourself. Today we had a moment. I had to take my daughter to the doctor. She's fine. But while we were there, another parent came in with her children, and the parent, was kind of really rude to her kid and told the kid to sit down. And the kid wasn't really doing anything. And, my daughter looks at me and she's freaking out, and she's like trying to whisper to me, and she leans over and she goes, "She's a bad mom." And I was like, why are you saying that? She said, because she told her kid to sit down and she was really rude. So the fact that like my kid thinks that that's being a bad mom shows that I guess I'm doing all right. So I guess that's kind of my point. Do you have anything else to say about parenting? Because I forgot, we didn't talk about your COVID vaccine, and I want to talk about that.
Oh, good. A couple things, I guess. Number
Sure.
one, I always tell my kid, like, some people hit their kids, and he's like, "Yeah, no." I'm like, "Have I ever beat the shit out of you?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, well, then you're doing pretty good." Like, it's another day that you survived without getting duct taped to a wall.
Right.
Like I showed him those pictures. I'm like, "Look what these people did. They taped their kid to the wall." I haven't taped you to the wall yet. You're all right. You're doing pretty good so far. But the other, and I mean, this is probably open up a whole other can of worms, but it would take a lot for me to like actually say something to another parent about what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I'll fucking think it. So like, yeah, I might not be like outwardly judgy to where I like, speak up about it, but like in the back of my mind, I'm free to think whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
Yeah, you do that. But I think too, it kind of, being a parent, it also casts a light backwards and causes you to reflect on your own childhood and the decisions that your parents made and what they did. And, there's a lot of things that my mom did with me, maybe out of, I won't necessarily say out of neglect, but maybe just because maybe she thought she was doing the right thing, or she wasn't thinking at all.
Yeah.
But there's decisions where she went left and I went right, and I feel pretty good about that. It makes you kind of come to grips with one of the things that happened with me right after my son was born is I started going to therapy again, because I knew that this was going to be a thing. This was going to be a very big deal, and I was going to have a lot of shit that I needed to sort out if I was going to do this correctly.
Yeah.
And I think I'm halfway there. But yeah, I mean, it was something that I took pretty seriously, because I wanted to do it right. And I put a lot of work into it. I put a lot of work into myself and trying to be ready for it. And, I don't think I'm the best dad in the world, if there is such a thing, but, I show up a lot, and I try to show up for my kids and be there when I can. And, overall, I'm glad I did it. There's not really there's not really a day in my life where I regretted it. I never regretted it, and both of my kids were unplanned, but I would never use the word mistake to describe them or describe what happened. And really, when I look at like the way my life could have been had they not been born, I'm not sure that would have been, I could have been dead. I mean, what I was doing, the way I was partying, and the way I was carrying on, like I was pretty far into it. And, maybe I could have cleaned up and flown right just for the sake of doing it. But I also could not have, and I look at some of my friends that haven't had kids that never really kind of had that responsibility thrust upon them that they had to rise to meet. And, I don't know if I'd really want to change places with them. And I'm not saying that from a condescending point of view where like, oh, I wouldn't want to be them. But, I mean, I know when I was younger and I would see people that had kids, I kind of pitied them because I felt like their life was over. And now that I'm older myself and I see people that still don't have kids, I kind of pity them because I feel like their life doesn't have meaning.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just about me pitying everyone around me because they're not me, but which is a very
bomber. So I mean,
well, it's a very Pat O'Sullivan thing to do. Oh gosh, darn it, I said it again. But yeah, I don't know. I think as long as you're happy with where you're at, that's all that matters.
Right. I think so. I think that's important.
It's a fucking roller coaster, but it's one that I'm glad I bought the ticket and took the ride for because. At the end of the day, I think we got to ask ourselves, why do we keep doing this? Why do we put so much time and effort into raising our kids? And one way to frame it, the way I frame it, that I think kind of speaks to why I enjoy it and why I keep doing it, why I put the time and effort that I do into it. It's because if you honestly believe that this world can be made into a better place, it's only going to happen by a better caliber of people taking control of things. And those people aren't just going to spontaneously manifest. They need to be born. They need to be raised. They need to be kind of shepherded and guided out into the world. And then it'll be up to them to do whatever they do with it. And, if you look at like movies like Idiocracy that, talk about the stupid people outbreeding the smart people, right? Well, this is me fighting back, and this is me not letting that happen. And at the end of the day, when my tour duty as a parent is done, if it's ever done, I'll know that for one person leaving this world, when I go, I'll leave two people behind that will have hopefully the best of me, and that will continue playing it forward and trying to make the world into a better place.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, that's, it's your legacy. I mean, it's your footprint is, those values. So, when you raise your kids, even though my mom, I'm not going to say she was a great mom. She wasn't. We've mended a lot of things. But there's still things that she, instilled in me that I'm using for my child. And so there will be things that I will instill in my child that she'll use for her kids and so on and so forth. Like my kid is not ever going to be like, I don't know, she's never going to be like big into sports and shit, but she will go and pick up the litter at the sports ball games because that's the kind of person that she is. And that's really important to me. That's, I think I value those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. I make a lot of fucked up jokes all the time about being a parent. But at the end of the day, that's my best friend. Like my kid's my best friend. I'd rather hang out with my kid than most anybody, except for every other weekend and some stuff like that.
Right.
And so, but
oh, I know.
But I appreciate her. I don't mind it. I was probably one of the last people in the world that should have had a child, but I'm not sad that I did. So, I agree with you.
Jesus Christ. No, I am definitively the last person in the world that should have had a child. I'll give you the rank of the second to last, but I promise you that title is 100% mine. I am definitely the last person in the world that should have ever had.
We're both like, I'm not the best.
And then they gave... Well, I wasn't, but we grew into it, you know.
Yeah.
And then they gave me 2. Whose fucking idea was it to give me 2? Jeez,
Well, that's your fault, Pat.
that was not me.
My
That was
kid one day, one of my exes used to joke because she was hanging out with us, and you know, I was asking her, am I the best mom in the world? And she said, "You're not the worst." And so I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Count your cigarette burns. None? All right. Then I'm doing okay. All right. No one's putting fucking cigarettes out on your arm.
Pretty much, yeah. So no, she's all right. She's good. She's got her moments, but yeah, that's basically
cool.
What I had to say about that. So Pat got his DNA altering shot on Friday, right?
Well, Dr. X did. I was
God,
Pat when I got my COVID shot. I became Dr. X.
You became Dr.
in the
X.
parking lot. Yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah. So yeah, I got it on Friday. And it was the process itself was incredibly efficient. I mean, I think we're all like imagining, and maybe it's different in Ohio, but in Chicago, it was like a very well-oiled machine. My appointment was at 3:15. I got there at probably like about 3:00, and I want to say that I was done at 3:15. Like that, it was very quick move. You know, they want you to sit there for 15 minutes to a half hour. And after you get the shot, just to make sure you don't turn into a werewolf or something. And I sat there and like just kind of played on my phone, and then I was like, all right, fuck this, nothing's happening. I left. So that was Friday. Friday night I was fine. Saturday had an extremely busy day. I got up and I marched with the scouts in the Irish parade out here.
Oh, okay.
And I worked my side job and was like, everything was fine. Yeah. My arm was a little sore, but that was it. Same thing with Sunday. I woke up Sunday, arm was sore, where I had gotten the shot, and which isn't anything new. If you ever get a flu shot or any kind of, they usually go into the muscle, and that's kind of what happened. Everything was fine. And then woke up today and I had a little bit of a headache. And which happens sometimes. And I want to say it happened on Saturday as well, where I woke up with a headache. But I thought maybe it was dehydration. It's very dry in my house.
Sure.
Or I don't know. I thought it was a carbon monoxide leak too. But like I was just like, oh, I don't know, like whatever.
And people get headaches.
Yeah. But then I went to work today and holy shit. It was like somebody. So I work 6 to 2, right? And I get in at about 5:30 and then kind of get things going. And then, so I get to work at 5:30 and everything's good. 6 o'clock, everything's good. Around 7 o'clock, I was up and down a ladder a couple times and I really started sweating. But like, okay, it's Monday. I've been laying around all weekend. Like maybe I'm just sweating. And it got progressively worse to where I was like this feverish, sweaty, killer headache. I was I was like dead. And even so much so one of the custodians at my job was like, holy shit, you look terrible. Like just walking past me. Like I looked like I was like, oh. And yeah, it was really fucking bad. And ended up leaving work a couple hours early and coming home and sleeping for about 4 hours. And I feel better now. But the timing was weird because it's like,
yeah, you had a couple days for it to like fester.
Yeah. And then I wondered, was it something different? Was it like food poisoning? Like I'm trying to think of like all the different things.
I mean, it still could have been. And that's the issue with it is that it's hard to tell, if it was that or if it was something else. A lot of people don't usually get symptoms with the first shot.
Yeah, usually they say the second one hits you a little bit harder. Now, my wife got both of them, and when she came home from getting her second one, she was like, "Oh, I felt fine," but no, she was fucked up. She was a little goofy and loopy, not like crazy out of it. She wasn't like dancing in the backyard, but like, just she wasn't herself. And I think she kind of went to bed early that night and woke up the next day fine. I don't know anybody that's I know a lot of people now that have been vaccinated and gotten both shots. And most people seem to kind of go through it and be okay all around,
Yeah.
And I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe, like I said, I can't even really bet 100% on what I experienced today being a direct cause of the vaccine shot on Friday.
Yeah. That's true. Are you nervous about getting the second shot now that you've had this experience?
Well, what I'm the most nervous about is how I'm going to feel tomorrow because, I woke up from, like I said, I slept for about 3 hours today when I got home, and woke up and felt okay, and took we had dinner and took the dogs for a walk and came back, and I'm okay, and I'm talking to you now and I feel okay. But, I felt okay most of this weekend,
Yeah.
and then came to work today. And once I really started working and, uh, moving around and stuff, that's when it started to hit me.
Yeah.
But which is weird because I walked like a mile in that fucking parade and I was perfectly fine. I don't know why today took why everything kind of came out today. I just don't want the same thing to happen again tomorrow, where I get to work and I start moving around and then suddenly I feel like I get hit by a truck again. Cause like for me to leave work early today, like that's not me being a baby. Like, sometimes like you kind of feel sick and you're like, all right, I'm going to leave early. And then like once you start driving away, you're like, I feel fine. Or like, now I feel okay,
Sure.
And it wasn't like that though. Like I remember being like, I'm going to leave early. Should I ask my boss if I can leave early? Should I ask my boss? Okay, I'm going to ask my boss. My boss said yes. Okay, I'm going to leave in a half hour. And I still kept feeling bad and bad and bad. And then I'm driving home and I still felt like shit. And there wasn't even like the psychosomatic like alleviation of like, oh, like I'm leaving now. It's going to be okay.
I'm off work. Yeah.
You're going to be home in a half hour. You're going to be in your bed. And then you kind of feel a little bit better just by proxy. It was like, no, I felt like garbage up until I crawled into bed and my fucking body shut off. And that's what I'm worried about. Cause that's fucking real. That's real. And I don't want to get hit with that again tomorrow. Now, the problem with when I get my second shot is that it's the day before my 40th birthday party.
Ooh.
And there's nothing I could do about that because they schedule it for you and they say this is when you got to go. So, yeah, I'm concerned about that because I had a bad reaction. I'm assuming this has to do with the shot on Friday. I had a bad reaction to that. So who knows what's going to happen with the second one. Now, one of my best friends had the second shot, and then we ended up going out for drinks. And she was getting the shot on Friday, and we were supposed to go out for drinks on Saturday. And she was like, well, I'll let you know before we go out because I'm getting my second vaccine shot on Friday. I don't know if I'll be able to go out on Saturday. And sure as shit, she came out and she was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It was no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think it does vary from person to person.
Well, I've known two people now that have had both doses, and both of those people have had adverse effects. I'm not going to say adverse effects. It's what's supposed to happen. So the fact that you don't feel well, it means that it's the shot's doing its job. But both of them were bad. Now, my mom, she's had one. She's a healthcare worker, and she just basically felt hungover. I mean, she had a fever, but she pretty much just felt like it was a bad hangover. Big Dill was the other person that I know that had his shot done, and he was on his ass for like 3 days. He was not doing well. So it just depends. And
really, after the second one?
After the second shot. Yeah, he did not do well with it. I mean, he's done it now. It's over. He's vaccinated and he's happy. But yeah, he did not do well with it. So it just depends on who you are and how your body handles it. So it's just one of those things. But I would play.
What about your mom? Did she have?
She was she had a second shot done, and she, like I said, she felt like it was just like a bad hangover.
Mine today was kind of hangover-ish. Now that I think about it, that's probably how I would describe it. Because there was no fever. My wife took my temperature when I got home. There was no fever. There was no cough or anything. It was legitimately just like really bad headache, and then like the fever chills.
Yeah,
it was very hangover-esque. Now, this is exactly how I would describe it. It was a really shitty hangover.
Well, we'll see how your second shot goes, and we'll check back in with you. But
sure.
Anything else you want to add to that, or?
It's good to be back.
I'm glad to have you back. I'm excited. I'm excited for what we do next. I'm excited to have you on with V. We've got other guests coming up here soon, so it'll be lots of fun. And I'll have to show you all the high strangeness that's been caught on the show. So I got a lot to update you on, but we'll get there. But we're happy to have you.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we will see you back here. Me and Dr. X will see you back here next Wednesday.